You're listening to another edition of Dream Vortex Radio on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us, we are already here. It is the 8th of September 2012 and my guest will join me later in the show, hopefully. But for now I have Melanie Vritschan to have a general chat. Welcome back to the show, Melanie.
Yes, hello. Good evening, Chris. How are you after your holiday? Did you have a good holiday?
Yep, I had a good holiday. Felt a lot clearer. Felt quite frustrated before I went away, and now I feel much clearer in my head and have a better direction going forward, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, how are you doing?
Yes, I'm doing well. I'm still very busy with the subjects that we discussed on our last shows. As you know, we discussed Morgellons, the cry of silence. Then I believe we had a show about the history of mind control. And our last show was about biological and psychological warfare experiments. And as you know, I have joined the International Center Against Abuse of Covered Technologies. And over the summer, I have been rather busy with the subject. So, but we're going forward, and this is a positive thing, I believe. So yes, and otherwise, I'm doing okay.
So, what has made you feel good recently?
Well, what has made me feel good recently? To come back a little bit to the shows so that people understand what we're actually concerned with, what we are doing, and then it will explain what makes me feel good right now, is that I'm a member of the International Center Against Abuse of Covered Technology, which is an organization that defends victims of covered technologies, which means that these people have been implanted against informed consent with a technology that is usually done by subdermal experimentation. And to prove this is a crime, obviously, a terrible crime, and to prove that it is not very easy. How we are proving this is that ISAACT organizes radio frequency scannings that will scan people to see if they emit a radio frequency. We had already, as we mentioned in our last shows, these tests were organized in the past in London, where we had quite a high rate of positive hits. Well, hits, I mean, people that came out positive in these tests. And but these were preliminary tests. The tests have to be done again in a closed environment, which is commonly known as a Faraday cage, to prove that the emissions are really coming from the person, so that we cannot be accused. When we go to court, we have to be sure that this person is 100% emitting a radio frequency. And this is why we do this in the Faraday cage, to really show that the frequency is indeed coming from the person. It was not easy, that's what, to come to your question, what makes me feel good, it was not easy to find a laboratory, a Faraday cage, that would accept us, or to find a laboratory, first of all, to make them aware of the problem, and then that would accept us to let us do the test in the Faraday cage. And so that's what I've been busy with in the summer whilst you were on vacation, well-earned vacation, is to find this Faraday cage, and this has now been achieved. So the frequency tests with these people that have been tested in London already, that came up positive, should normally go ahead this autumn. And here in Belgium, and I'm very pleased to announce this tonight. It was not easy, but this has now been achieved, and I'm looking forward to the results we will get.
Can you just repeat what was done, because you broke up a little bit at the end for me?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. ICT, International Center Against Abuse of Covered Technologies, organizes radio frequency scannings. That means that we, with a detector, the device, where you can measure radio frequency to see if people have been implanted against informed consent with a technology, with a covered technology. These tests, these scannings had already been done in several cities before, preliminary scans, in London, for example, in April, and in other cities also in Germany and in the United States. But we need to redo the test to be absolutely sure that the emissions come from the person in a Faraday cage. So what I have been busy with this summer is finding a laboratory, finding a Faraday cage that would let us perform these tests. This has now been achieved. It will be this autumn. And so we should be able to prove, hopefully, that people have been implanted with this technology without informed consent. So I hope I came across better now. I hope the audio is better. But it is a huge step forward for us.
So what have you learnt since you found out you had Morgellons, and how deep do you personally think that it all goes, and what solutions are you seeing?
What have I learned? First of all, I must say that I didn't immediately know, of course, that I had Morgellons. Actually, I didn't know anything about Morgellons before. I didn't even know it existed. What I've learned for me personally is that what I take from this experience, which has been, as we discussed in our last shows, a very difficult experience for me, is that the world, I saw it before, my whole idea of this world, of a democracy, about the society we're living in, was a complete false one. To go back a little bit in time, is that I used to work for a satellite navigation company, so I was very much interested in technology. I was very much pleased when I could announce to people that we had launched another satellite. Once I got implanted with Morgellons, and it has been also a long personal road for me to understand what had actually happened to me and what Morgellons was and what this was all about, I can say that my whole world view, as I had it previously, tumbled. So I realized that the world, or the society, everything, all the values, everything I was living in before and thought I knew, tumbled within a very, very short time. And I realized that, unfortunately, Chris, our rights can be taken away within a blink of an eye. You can be made a subject of some illegal biomedical research in just receiving a shot, and that will really change your whole world and basically destroy all your life, or at least, let's say, give it a very different direction than what I had before. So it has been a bumpy road, it has been a difficult experience, but I have certainly gotten more real. Let's say I see the world now, I believe, in a much more realistic way than what I used to believe. To be honest with you, I had the impression I have the impression that I have been living in a lie, in a total lie before.
Well, I've spoken to yourself and Marie and Carmen, and you are three women who have been dealing with this, and I think that the three of you are really strong women who are doing a lot of good, and your mentality is very good, and you have a good way of being activists, I think, and you're coming at it with a good mentality, and the shows that you've done, you've really put forward your information and your personalities really well.
Thank you. Yes, I must say that this is such a struggle. It's so difficult. It is to be victimized by this technology. Also, the effects of it are not only physical, so you're in physical pain. The most common symptoms, and when I say symptoms, is a little bit symptoms normally for me is linked to a disease. This is not a disease; it's a crime. But the symptoms you will experience, the physical ones, you have a constant current go through your body, you have constant electroshocks, you have excruciating headaches, you have vertigo, you feel nauseous, you have heart rate, heart pain, terrible, as I said, headaches, and there's a sharp decrease in your physical capabilities. So that is for sure. But there's also a psychological side to this, which is really not to be underestimated, because people that are victimized by these technologies, normally people, family, friends, the whole entourage of the person not understand what is going on, will believe that this is science fiction. It's actually more unfortunately more science than fiction, but will not understand what is going on, and will take that in general as a psychological problem. So you have this whole, your world basically tumbles, and you have whole things, I mean, next to the physical symptoms, which are highly debilitating, you also have then the finance, a huge decrease in your financial means, but then you have also the psychological effects to deal with, which is mostly that victims of the technology are usually not understood. They are usually sent to a psychiatrist, most of the time misdiagnosed with some delusional disorder, and also ostracized by the society and lose all their family, their friends. So it is extremely hard to deal with this kind of crime once you're a victim of it, because nobody will believe you. It is generally taken as a psychiatric disorder, and your whole world tumbles. So you have to deal with this disbelief on top of all the physical pain and suffering you're in, and the sharp decrease of your whole capabilities. You lose all your friends, you lose all your family, you lose everything. And I believe, honestly, thank you for this compliment, that only the strongest survive this kind of torture, this kind of destruction of the whole their life. So it has been a struggle, but I must say I always want to see the positive side of it. And as you've just mentioned, Chris, it is true that over this horrible experience, I have met wonderful friends, people that were victimized by this technology. Also, throughout the years, I've learned that I'm not alone, far from being alone with this problem. And I've met people like Carmen, I've met people like Marie, who's just mentioned, and many more. Lars Rutgard, who's also, he's the European director for ISAC, who does scanning. He is from Denmark. I have met many victims, friends, over the years that have been victimized by this technology as well, and are extremely strong characters, I believe. And that gives unity, and there's power in numbers, and that gives hope that we will get to the bottom of this and find a solution for the victims.
Well, what I'm trying to do here is change people's mentality so that they can see that there's a wider wider scope of things to deal with, and so we can take these things on board and see them for what they are, and then we can have more flexibility within that knowing, and we can start to find solutions with compassion. And if we understand each other, if we can see people like yourself, and you're a real person, and you're showing your strength in this, we can have compassion and find deeper solutions, social solutions as well, and bridge gaps, hopefully.
Yes, and I would like to commend you for that. I actually consider you now a part of the family, so to speak, at least one important person in this fellowship that we're trying to build, that includes people that I've just mentioned, like Carmen and Marie, very strong women, not only women, very strong people, and also you, who's trying to raise awareness for this, to get the truth out, to bring the word out, and to make people understand that this is going on. As you said, I'm a real person, I'm a real victim. That these things are not science fiction, they're going on in the world currently, because we have got victims from all over the globe. So it's really a worldwide problem of huge concern, and people like you and others of your colleagues have helped greatly, I believe, in raising public awareness for this, and as you said, bringing the information to the public. And because ultimately the only way we can stop this is I believe, a public outcry against these grave, very, very grave violations of human rights. So thank you for doing what you do.
Well, you're bringing a lot of personality as well, and that brings a great human factor to it, and you're showing that Morgellons isn't just some fringe theory. People talk about all these different theories and stuff, and I think a lot of things are not theories, but people can get that impression. And I've for a long time thought that there was certainly something to this Morgellons, and that was by actually looking into it myself, not just hearing about it, but I thought that there really must be something to it. And I think that what your group is doing is bring something real to the quote-unquote movement, and it's crossing lines, it's crossing barriers between various sects, perhaps within the movement, and so it's bringing a lot of clarity and a direction which I think is needed, because people can bunker down and become harsh sometimes, I think, and end up attacking each other. This is it's not just a theory, and this is now being proven, and it's we can I think we can now loosen up as a truth movement, because now we have enough facts in front of us, we have enough information to say, okay, this is what's going on. And so if we can get on board with that and help each other out, support each other, and support the victims, and talk to each other, then we can really bring the truth forward and move things a little faster.
Yes, you're absolutely right. I believe this communication factor is extremely important, especially as I said, the victims of this technology are usually very isolated, discredited, ostracized by society, family, friends. So it's extremely important to educate the public, so to and to let people know this is happening. That this is, as I said, not science fiction. This is really happening every day. And because that Magellan's, there are thousands and thousands of Magellan's victims. I believe I saw some statistics and estimate that there are about 1,000 new victims around the globe every day, which is huge. And so this is true. And I also like to usually refer to what Senator John Glenn said about a failed bill in the United States that requested, in fact, special laws appropriate against this kind of illegal biomedical research, experimentation on human life. He said that when the bill was introduced, to introduce the failed bill, which he very much regretted, he said, well, just, I would like to put that on a personal level for each of my colleagues here. Imagine your own son, your own daughter, a member of your family, your own parents, a family member of yours who next time he or she goes to the doctor is suddenly part of some biomedical experiment they're not even told about. So, and this is happening. This is real. So he said, well, I believe that's why I believe there is really a need for such a law to protect basically our family, humanity, from these kinds of abuses. And I couldn't agree more. It's really live. This is really happening. It's real life, and it happened to me. It happened to many, many people, like you said, Carmen, Marie. But there are so many victims, and I don't wish it. But tomorrow it could happen to you or somebody else. So we are really faced with this problem now, and I thank you. I commend you for taking the bull by the horn, so to speak, and speak out, or give me and other victims the opportunity to speak out and to educate the public and request that appropriate legislation is created to protect our fellow our people, basically, from these kinds of abuse. So thank you.
I also have you on because you're the best person I can think of having on, to be honest. And then somebody didn't. Well, even more should be turning up later on in the show. There's a reason why she's late, so I'm not complaining. But you're available and you bring good information, and you're a good example of us not taking it anymore. And I think that humanity's successes are despite, not because of the powers that were. It's not all these things that we're being given, and it's not this society that we live in. That's the fake thing that's been imposed, and then we accept it. I see the world as illusion, the fiction, and then there's the earth, and then there's the natural law, and
very true.
We're given things, we're given laws that don't make sense, maritime laws and all of that, and if we break down all of these structures, what sticks at the end of that process? I think we have to go right back to basics and what really works, and then build from there. And I think we do need to be idealistic. Of course, sometimes you've got to slightly compromise on that so that you can make changes sometimes. But
yes, you have to accept that change will not happen overnight. That is for sure. We really need to pass by this, educational process, this awareness raising process, But I believe that if we succeed, and that's what we're doing here, to wake our brothers and sisters up, so to speak, and open their eyes to what is really going on, change will come.
But also, injustice for one person is injustice for everyone. So if there's
absolutely, that's actually the motto of ISAC.
Oh right. Okay.
Yeah, very, very funny that you say that, because it is indeed, as the late Martin Luther King would say, injustice anywhere is injustice everywhere, and that is indeed true. And we need to raise public awareness. We need to let people know what is going on, and because it is true, if we do not stand up against this now, if we do not inform people now about what is going on, this illegal research will continue, and then we might wake up actually when it is too late.
Yeah, I was in a chat with you and Carmen yesterday, and we were saying that there's probably only a year left now to really get this information out, because
absolutely
the way that technology is now advancing, or what they're now telling us that they've got at least, or however that works, there's a cheetah robot that can run, I think it was just under 28 mile per hour that they've now built, and then human robots that can be pushed around and it can still stand strong, and there's other robots, and there's videos from 2006 with things that look extremely advanced, and in a few years' time these things could be used against us, and that's
already used against us. So, but I agree with you. The technological advancement is extremely, extremely fast, and we know that usually from what is our technological standard right now, usually the military has technology that is at least 30 to 50 years ahead of what is now our common technology standard. So what we're testing now, and for example, I'm a victim of organs, which is an invasion of human tissues by nanotechnology. Nanotechnology is kind of the buzzword at the moment, but it is what is considered new technology, or extremely new technology, or emerging technology for us now. Is actually, and what we're testing for, is actually in terms of military standards already. Yeah, we're testing for old technology, in fact. So yeah, as you say, it's very correct that our window to bring this to public understanding and to raise public awareness of it, and to stop this, to actually achieve that the appropriate laws are created to protect our brothers and sisters from these kinds of abuses and save humanity, basically, is extremely small. So we don't have much time, and but I am hopeful that, as I said, we have now found ways to prove that these kind of abuses, with these measurements we're taking, with this radio frequency scanning, that we have ways to measure, to prove that these abuses are indeed going on, and I am hopeful that we shall prevail, that we will be able to prove that, and basically, to call just in time, so to say, to save it for for the rest of us, or to save humanity from, because when I say save humanity, it's really, Chris, it's not an exaggeration. I'm not exaggerating. It is what Morgana's actually is transhumanism. It is altering the human being. By this technology, is manipulating the human being. So it is not an exaggeration when I say to save humanity, at least humanity as we know it, or we knew it until this day.
Yeah, or maybe even how we knew humanity a couple of 100 years ago. People don't even look up to see chemtrails in the sky. Wow. Some of the ones I've seen recently, they look like Chinese dragons all over the sky, and
they're very bizarre forms.
My brain can hardly take it. Wow, you know.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and I really don't understand that chemtrails are still considered to be a conspiracy theory, because first of all, chemtrails as such are even mentioned in the State Preservation Act. So why would they mention something that doesn't exist? And then secondly, I really don't understand that people still don't get it, because it is so clear now. I mean, if you look at the skies, and as you said, these clouds that look like dragons, and these very huge, lingering white tails in the sky, and these very odd and bizarre forms, and it is just not natural, and I don't understand that people cannot see what is right in front of their eyes, you know, so, and that it takes so long for the public to wake up, basically, and to ask questions. You know, what brings us back to our show, The History of Mind Control, where these tests were to test obedience to authority, to a given norm, and where the result was that the large majority of people just followed orders without questioning anything, and didn't even ask questions anymore. And it is extremely concerning. I agree with you. I can't really understand that. It takes so long for people to understand that chemtrails are real and that this is really going on.
Well, we have even more with this now. What do you think about that?
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me.
Hello, Eva.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, too. I think this is a great question, and I think that there's two things, I think, primarily at work, at least, I guess. One would be the people that are awake, that aren't doing anything, or that are in denial. It has to do with conditioning, you know, and some people haven't been blessed with family members or close friends who've gone through an awakening. I think that's really, really important. I know for myself, about 10 years, my brother started going through his awakening process 10 years ago. And even though he was an amazing resource of support for me, and I counted on him a great deal, I was still very skeptical of all of these weird changes he was making, you know, in his diet, in his routine, you know, who he hung around with, the type of music he listened to, things he read, exposed himself to, even, you know, very diligent about his thought processes. This all seems so extreme and, like, bizarre, and, you know, fast forward 10 years now, and I'm, you know, grateful now that he had the courage to role model these behaviors openly in the family constructs, and the fortitude to hold energetically his truth openly. I mean, he would never hit anyone over the head with what he felt was important. He would always be very reserved and almost force you to get to a place of frustration where you asked him, why are you doing this? Because it's really weird, you know? And then he would share. And I think that one thing is so important, because I think that's our true modality of learning, is role modeling, monkey see, monkey do. And society conditions us so much to be afraid to step out of the box, to be weird, you know, to be rejected. That those paradigms are so ingrained in us. And then secondly, I would say there's probably an energetic thing going on with the diet, and, you know, what they're exposed to, you know, water, drinking, you know, aluminum, amalgam fillings, the food they ate, the amount of exercise they get in, what they're viewing and taking in from a visual, what they're hearing, whether or not they're in a work environment that is flexible to allow them to maybe start to, because, the majority of our life is spent at work. So if our work environments are so regimented and, corporate, and no room for spirituality or changes in how we show up day to day, that serves as a very useful holding construct in our paradigm. So, and then money, what their value systems are too. That I think that if people are security oriented because they've been traumatized at a young age to think that security is the number one priority, then they're less likely to be able to step out of their comfort zones into trying, these weird things. I think that's such a big part of it.
Yeah, I think it's this fake construct that me and Melanie were talking about before you came in. We're given this thing called society, and then it has all its lights and flashes and all of that, and we're constantly bombarded with it, and then it gives us a hug to tell us, oh, it's okay, but really, it's vaccinating us behind our backs while it does it and all of that, and we need to break our conditioning and not let our conditioning break us. And I think there's many levels to the denial, and you mentioned about the spiritual angles. I think there's many angles to it, and I don't just mean angles as in confusion, because it can be confusing, that you can see the simple through the complex, and I think that's what don't just think, that is what I'm trying to do with having Melanie on, is there are all of these different angles and different things to look at, and we can get lost in all of these quote unquote theories and stuff, but there really is there's something real behind it, and that's why there is all this information out there. And some people can complicate it too much, but that's because everybody's trying to put the information out from their own angle. And if we can find something real to present, as what Melanie is doing, and maybe what you're also doing, even we can get to that in a bit, is present something real and bring other angles to it, and maybe create some kind of real movement with something to present, because it really is about, it's not just about an oppressive society that we can overthrow. This is really something that's been built up for a very long time, and we need to really address it. And if people can really see that, then maybe that will awaken them to many more levels. And I think there is an awakening going on anyway. I think this is perhaps all of this stuff which is being put onto us is because humanity is actually awakening anyway, and so they're kind of Go ahead, Eva.
We had this conversation in our Facebook group the other day about the Matrix, and the idea that if you look at it again from a holographic perspective, quantum physics, then the problem's actually driven by the solution. So if we're starting to identify problems in society, it's only because the solutions even pushed it to the surface of our capacity of recognition. But it makes me wonder if the matrix of all of this silliness that we've now been able to identify was all, a vital construct like gravity, is when you're weight training, you need gravity in order to tone that muscle, right? You have to have something to push against in order for the micro trauma to happen in the muscle, so that you can then go to work. All your little microphage go to work to repair the muscle and make it stronger, right?
Mm-hmm.
There has to be something on the other side to allow for us to, and a big enough reason why. I did take an adult education course, and one of my favorite words that came out of that was the word perturbation, and the idea that we need to have enough discomfort in order for us to get perturbated or start to perturbate. It's such a fun word. We don't get to use that word enough in society. To get us to be in enough discomfort that we decide, okay, I need to start doing something different.
I think what Eva says is very important, and also what Chris just said is, Chris said, well, you have to understand that they've been doing this for a long time now. So, and this is actually true. The first experiments and documented cases of illegal biomedical research, basically implanting a human being with brain transmitters, is there are cases, really documented cases, like the writer and TV producer Eric Robert Naslund, who's Swedish, that was implanted in the 60s already, so it's been indeed going on for a long, long time. And what I think what Eva says is that, what are we going to do if we don't wake up now? What are we going to do with it later if we don't take this opportunity? And there I must think of one of our shows that Chris and I did, where I presented the Montag project, is that there was one survivor that survived this horrific program, and he and his wife are now basically giving courses to teach people to deal with this horrendous mind control experimentations that was done on them. And the wife, when she was interviewed on the Montag base, said something very important, and that's why I wanted to link up to what Eva just said, is that he said, well, how do you see all this problem? And she said, well, I believe that our society, we only have this one chance now to do something about it, because with mind control and illegal mind control experiments, it is like this. It is slowly and gradually taking over the whole society. It's really incremental. It's been going on for decades, and it's really taking alarming proportions. And she said, it is like a person that takes on too much weight. First you have 1 kilo, then you have like 2 or 3, 75, then 10, and at the end of the day, or at the end, eventually you end up with 30 kilos too much, and then you ask yourself, how did I actually get that fat? How is it possible that I took on so much weight? She said, well, with mind control and mind control experiments, it's the same. We, at the end of, eventually, when it's almost going to be too late, and that's when it's going to be extremely difficult to get rid of it, is that society, we're going to ask ourselves, well, how did this happen? How did we let ourselves, controlled to such an extent? Why wasn't it stopped before? But now, once I have 30 kilos on my back, it's going to be very difficult to lose them. So I think it's very important we do what we're doing here, and I had Eva on, and to wake people up and tell them what's really going on.
I think that our awakening forces the powers that were to close downness, and we've started not to take it. Well, we started not to take it, and now we've started to not take it again even more. In say, thousands of years ago, hundreds of years ago, people started to realize that there really was a tyranny. And I don't know when that all started, but now we're kind of the awakening is going into higher and higher gears, and then it causes the tyranny to be stronger, and then we awake even more. And Eva, you have a show called Evolution, and I think that's what we need. Well, that's what's happening anyway, is that evolution is causing more evolution, and we are realizing that we need to rise above each level, because there's nothing left to fall back on now anyway. We're seeing now, it's becoming more and more clear to those who can actually see the bloody chemtrails. Wake up and see the chemtrails. It's clear that there really is nothing. Society is a lie, and it's becoming more and more of a lie all the time. And it's not. Society is not the people. Society is what is imposed or is presented to us, so that we buy into it and have these quote unquote luxuries, so that we stay happy and don't revolt, or don't evolve or cause many revolutions, or hopefully evolutions in thinking and in action. I lost my train of thought, but anybody want to speak on that?
No, we really need to, as you said, the bloody chemtrails, I believe, and we need to teach people to do a very simple thing, and that is looking up. Look up in the sky and see, open your eyes and see what you see. And so it's not difficult to do, but you have to also open your mind to it. If you are not open to things and keep on thinking that chemtrails can only be a conspiracy theory, then of course you will not see these very strange clouds, these very unnatural clouds, even if they're right in front of your eyes. That's why we need to wake people up and make them aware of what is going on, so that when they look up, they really see what is there, and that is the chemtrail.
I wanted to go back to what you guys were talking about with Melanie, with the Montauk. Mm-hmm. One of another favorite tool of words I have in my toolbox is the word "go deeper." And so if we look at these people who, at some point had a soul agreement to come here at this time and embody the struggles of whether it's MK Ultra, Monarch programming, Montauk, and those atrocities that went into fragmenting the mind, and then also have the fortitude and wherewithal to survive, and then the courage to come forward and start talking and sharing with the world. If we go deeper and look at it from a soul agreement level, for both the people who are being, if you want to use the word victimized, and the people committing the atrocities, if we are looking at it at a deeper level, and the idea of what Chris said, evolution, we needed to have both those players in place in order to perpetuate the spiral unfolding and being able to get to this point, right? And so how do we now in our consciousness acknowledge the pain that people have gone through as victims, and acknowledge the inappropriateness of the person perpetrating, and yet go deeper and understand that this is all part of the process? How do we do that?
Well, I believe that the only way to actually achieve what you've just said, to show the totally intolerable side of this kind of horrific experiments and totally unacceptable and horrible, violations of basic human rights is that, as I said to Chris before you came on, is that we educate the public, let people know what is going on, show concrete examples of victims. That if you want, for example, I'm such a person. I'm a victim of Morgellons, of mind control technologies, covered technologies. So show concrete examples and let people know, understand, make the public understand that these things are really happening. They're still happening today. MK Ultra, we were told, was closed, was abandoned. Unfortunately, we have now sufficient, very tight and solid evidence that it has not been abandoned at all, that the research, totally illegal research, has been going on and even been expanded, more developed. The technologies have been much more refined. So show the public, wake them up, show them that these things are really happening. They are happening today. They could be happening to a family member, to anybody, to a friend. Next time they go to the doctor, and then, as you said, Eva, how do we stop them, or how do we can we achieve this awareness raising process? Is that we educate the public, and then what will ultimately, I believe at least, bring these horrific things to an end is a public outcry. But when we have woken enough people up that they demand explanations, that they demand a congressional investigation, that they demand that they hold these perpetrators accountable, and that we can only achieve if we do more shows like this. And that's why I wanted to just thank Chris also once more for his commitment in doing these radios and wake the public up, and that will ultimately ask for some kind of accountability. I believe that will happen.
Have you heard of Kevin Arnett?
Yes, with the Catholic Church and the abuse in Canada, is that it? Or is that somebody else?
He's heading the tribunal against the Vatican, the Catholic, the First Nations communities, and that then extends itself into all of North America. And what I find so interesting is this goes back to what you just said, Melanie. There's certain generations that are still unable to really grasp or fathom what they've lived through, but without even understanding. And I think, like I myself have gone through some personal struggles that in the first initial 4 years were all about trying to pick myself up and dust myself off. But now I've reached a place where I'm actually grateful, and because I understand it took that type of discomfort, that type of perturbation, that type of frustration and confusion to wake me up to this underlying question of what is really going on. Because, we can be personally victimized and then go out into society and try to cope and move forward and find all of this weird reaction to it. Oh, shush, don't talk about that. Or, and then we hearing about all
conspiracy theory, or,
all these other weird things going on. So I had my own personal experience with rape, and then I found out that there was a group of First Nations in Canada, one tribe, the Sukanagan, that had gone through Catholic school atrocities, and I thought it was just isolated to that tribe. And then halfway through this leader's speech, this lady in her 40s stood up and she was like, "Oh my gosh, I am just getting something and I have to share it. I realized that my father was a Supreme Court judge and he prostituted me out at a young age under these societies to other judges and lawyers and police officers and RCMPs. in the secret society, and it sounds a lot like what you're talking about. And at the time, I didn't know anything about mind control.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really sitting there, even though I'd gone through my own personal rape, I thought, wow, those are two really weird, unrelated, strange things that have happened in this world, you know. And it wasn't until almost a year later when I was finally open to understanding and learning about mind control, or I don't know how that even happened. It was like all of a sudden it was just this download, and I got that mind control is really the golden thread that's interwoven globally through all systems in society, that is the mechanism that they use as a holding frequency to keep the old paradigms in place. And there's such a discrepancy between, you know, mainstream society understanding that there is, you know, even the capacity for that type of knowing and planning against the population. My mom is in her 60s, and she, you know, maybe just now because of what I'm going through and the way I've jumped into the deep end of the swamp, is starting to go, well, wait a minute, what's my daughter involved with? Like, maybe I should learn a little bit more or be open a little bit more, right?
Mm-hmm.
But otherwise, it was just, no, I don't believe that. I don't believe that a government could, you know, create a false flag terrorist attack on their own soil. I don't believe the government would do this. I don't believe the government, you know. That type of pathology is still very present, and people are so unable to understand that the Catholic Church and Kevin Arnold, Kevin Arnett, I just have to give him, you know, his props in this, because it's all connected. You know, it's not white man did this to the natives. It's white man did this to white man. White man did it to everyone.
And you're right. Kevin Arnett is another person who's really doing a lot of good stuff and clearing the picture up, because as we're saying, it is to do with mind control. I mean, you could say that is the strand to pull. It's this trauma that is used against us, and then we end up not seeing the trauma because we are so traumatized that we can't see it. And so that is the strand to pull, as I said, is this mind control. And so we need to have more compassion for victims and be open to have a support structure for people who have gone through traumas, and to understand that there are these traumas and they are everywhere, and we are all quote unquote victims of it, and we need to help each other get over the victim mentality, but to step into our own power individually. And when we realize who we really are, what we really are, and who each other are, then we have such a strength, we have such a support network, and we won't let anybody fall because we have an understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true what you say, and I was really touched by what Eva says. First of all, what she's gone through, what must be absolutely horrible. I mean, rape is something. I mean, I'm really shocked, but the reaction of her mom is really exactly the same reaction that my dad has. Unfortunately, he just cannot grasp. He cannot imagine that these things would be possible, and it is very, very difficult for me to make understand. It's total blockage that, I mean, MK Ultra, after all, was a government program, and I don't understand it. It's so difficult to understand that. Yes, I mean, I understand that there is some hesitation in accepting that your government would actually attack you, would actually do that to me or to you, but my father has exactly the same reaction than Eva. And what has helped a little bit is that he has listened to a few shows that Chris and I did.
Okay, well, you're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. This is Dream Vortex Radio, and we'll see you on the other side of the break. It's a 4 or 5 minute break.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio. We'll be right back after this short break, so stay tuned.
This is Thomas, a.k.a. a Mad Painter. I'd like you to join me Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for Open Canvas. Don't forget to bring an open mind.
Yes, folks, that's right. Bring an open mind to an open canvas. Again, that is Monday nights, 10 p.m. Eastern. UFOs to government corruption. This is Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here.
This is Rebecca Jernigan. Join me and my co-host Sienna Leah for Real Women Stepping Up and the Men Who Love Them. Live every Thursday, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. An interactive, lively, solution-oriented show getting into what real women are about. We explore how to let go of programming to claim our authenticity and divinity. We offer in-depth information and processes for both male and female. Tune in, share, and experience right here on freedomslips.com, Thursdays, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern.
TotalTruthRadio.com.
Total Truth Broadcasting Network is selling affiliate radio stations. What does that mean? Ever wonder if that radio talk show or the 6 o'clock news you're listening to is reporting important facts or just plain old fluff? Presenting a smokescreen to cover up what's really going on in the world. But of course they are looking out for your best interests, right? I don't think so. But that's where you come in. Become the proud owner of your own radio station, operating 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365. Broadcasting live, presenting facts and ideas, asking the tough questions, and reaching like-minded people who together will demand answers. Discussion, debate, freedom of speech, I know these are words that inspire you. At TotalTruthRadio.com, this is all possible. Own a business? What better addition to your marketing plan? A radio station dedicated to the customers you serve, promoting your products, detailing the benefits, a perfect way to boost your revenue. For only $50 a month, I repeat, $50 a month, you can broadcast live over the airwaves and have your opportunity to speak. And take it from me, it really couldn't be easier. You might ask, how can I do that? I'm no Casey Kasem, a radio station. Surely it's too expensive. I could never get on air. Well, nonsense. $50 a month. Total Truth Broadcasting live support will have you up and running in minutes. And with the click of a mouse, you're on the air when you want to be, saying what you want to say. Oh, and did I mention this low monthly rate also includes a chat room? Yes, that's right, your very own chat room. Another cool tool to share ideas and information. Do you belong to a community organization? Imagine your organization with its own radio station. Or perhaps share a station with another club. Broadcast news, sporting events, results, upcoming meetings or gatherings, and use your chat room to keep in touch. All for just $50 a month. It's a great way to communicate with your members, and truly very easy to do. Listen, folks, if this technology existed back then, the caveman would have been doing it. So get on over to TotalTruthRadio.com, where you'll find details on this wonderful opportunity to own your own radio station.
TotalTruthRadio.com. All right, thanks for listening while we take that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And yeah, we're going to get back to your host.
Welcome back to Hour 2 of Dream Vortex Radio on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. We are having a roundtable discussion here about mind control and technological interference and how that links into social conditioning and I guess how we can empower ourselves with knowledge and information and caring for each other. So welcome back to Melanie Vritschan and Eva Moore.
Yes, thank you, Chris. Hi.
Hi. So Eva came in later on in the first hour. So would you like to introduce yourself and what is your work and what are you trying to bring forth?
Oh, great. Okay. So let's see where to start. My journey, as I was sharing earlier in the first portion before the break, really started off as a personal tragedy or trauma, which I didn't really have the option of dwelling in too long because of my son. I was a single mother, and my son is very empathic, and I was date raped by an ex-boyfriend, and that was hard enough to go through, because it's so funny, because society too, you walk around thinking, oh, that will never happen to me. That's always the other people that it happens to, and it's always a stranger in the bushes. Well, that was my big awakening, and I think this is really important. Like 99% of all sexual assaults happen from close family members or friends, and that's not something we're taught in society. And that was a big wake-up call. Fast forward, long story short, I looked at many, many different healing modalities to try and do as much work as possible, as fast as possible for my son's, quality of life. And there was lots of them that I found, and Melanie, I'd love to hear from you at some point what healing modalities you found really great, but my favorites are Ho'oponopono, the emotional freedom technique, the tapping, hypnotherapy, and holodynamics was another one that really resonated with me. And just like the title states, it's the whole dynamics, quantum physics, holographics, and the application of both towards human consciousness and the perpetuation of human consciousness. And I found that the two, Ho'oponopono, which in theory is almost like a quantum collapse approach, combined with holodynamics, really worked for both, right brain, left brain approach for me. And it was a nice balance. And so I've really been, taking my time in learning holodynamics for the past 5 years, going back to it repeatedly, and because my brain could only, as a single parent, you have so many responsibilities, and my brain could only grasp so much, and then I'd have to go back and revisit the whole process and learn the next chunk, and that's really how adult learners succeed, is through chunking and making it applicable to something they've gone through and tying it to a previous knowing. That's how it helps cement learning process in adults. So it took me some time, and other than that, my journey has been all about preventative health and working with naturopathic doctors for the past 10 years. In the last year, in 2011, I had the pleasure of working for a nonprofit that really was dedicated towards preventative health and detoxing, including amalgam filling removal in Canada for free, the different types of chelation therapies and, supplementations, experimenting with higher levels of vitamin D. It's called Pure North Synergy, if anybody wants to look it up. It's a free program in Calgary, Alberta, Canada, and it's open to the public completely. You just have to go through, an initial learning session. Anyways, part of that also included some biofeedback. So I did some of that hardcore for about a month, and then it was like my brain just opened up. And with my dad passing in December and having time off, I think that's where mind control just slowly presented itself, and I dove into that rabbit hole as deep as I could go. And in a month's time, December 2011, I was obsessed almost. My family thought I was crazy. Here it is, Christmas, my dad's funeral, my dad's passing, and all I want to do is just learn more about mind control. And they really were frustrated with me, and I feel so bad, but it was like I jumped and there was no going back. And January, I came across Bill Brockbrader's first initial interview with Kerry Cassidy and his testimony as a whistleblower, and I just wrote him an email and basically offered my support and recognition in a holographic perspective, in that if he was able to come forward in the micro and embody this capacity to own all of his humanity, both the good and bad and the duality of that, and no longer allow the bad stuff to be something that would silence him or oppress him towards making further bad choices. If he could overcome that, then holographically it meant that in the macro, the big picture, that was also happening. And so that was basically the email I wrote him. It was all very benign. There was nothing very romantic, just support and love, in which, he got hundreds of emails like that. But somehow that stood out, and he replied to me, and we maybe emailed twice, and then basically we fell in love over email with that. It sounds so ridiculous. But and we ended up getting married August 9th. And one of the premises that I used to jump into this rabbit hole was my holodynamics background. And there's two statements to holodynamics that I really love. One is that because the micro and the macro, the big and the little picture, the personal and the collective are so related completely, that they're in the implicate order. As one changes in an individual level, the big picture changes. Or if you can see it out there happening and changes happening out there, that means it's happening in you as well. And so what that means is there is no significant, big, scary problems anymore. And there's no little, insignificant problems anymore. That the duality of the idea of what problems are now dissipates. And it takes the fear charge away from going after the big stuff, that we would identify as the big problems. Like if I were to, pick one, mind control would be one, a big problem, and trauma-based programming, right? And as an individual, I would get very overwhelmed and think, well, what's little me going to do about mind control on a global level? And that's been, rolled out for centuries. What am I going to do about that? But in holodynamics, we think about the implicate order in that there's no significant and insignificant. It's all relative to the same intrinsic shift. And so, I thought, okay, can I apply my holodynamics training with my relationship with Bill? Because, most people would look at somebody who, classified as a super soldier that's gone through, mind control and all of this, government, federal, military corruption that they, they literally took something, and this is I'm going to jump to Kay Griggs and her testimony in 1998. If you haven't seen it, please seek it out on YouTube. Kay Griggs, Griggs. She talks about in 1998 her husband's transgressions, and basically that's the foundation that the military complex uses, is they encourage transgressions and then they leverage those transgressions against their personnel, and you have to have a certain amount of transgressions in order to get security clearance, because that's what ensures that you will stay in line and following orders, is that they have this dirty, sticky truth that you've committed these bad things.
Basically blackmail.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so Kay Griggs in 98, if you think about it, that's before 9/11. This Christian, lady comes out and talks about her husband as a colonel, in charge of dirty tricks, and it finds his journal. It's fascinating. She really is a goldmine. If anybody could find a way to get her out talking, if she felt safe enough to be out talking again now, it's been, over 20 years since the original testimony, she's just foundational in creating ripples. And oddly enough, in 98 is when all of this stuff was actually happening to Bill. So it is a true testimony of what he went through. He made mistakes. He actually, had made poor judgment in a sexual context, which is, full circle for me. It wasn't rape, but it was carnal knowledge of a minor. So he had sexual relationships with someone who was underage, which is, again, the foundation of what mind control works on. Understanding that, sexual inappropriate interaction at a young age will fracture the mind and create the perfect foundation for further mind control. Well, oddly enough, Bill was molested at the age of 4. So the pattern is, again, going back to the implicate order, if you think of it at a...
It's holographic. It shows itself up. The schism is alive in one person, so then they end up passing that schism on to somebody else.
Yeah. And Kathy O'Brien did a great job of talking about that and how
she did indeed.
She committed, that against her own daughter, and that there was that, spillover from her into her daughter. And she didn't go into how exactly the specifics, but she alluded to it. So we need to, going back to what we were saying before the break, in my opinion, what I think society really needs to do is put down all of the pseudo BS that we're told is important and really go to the root of looking at and finding mind control in society and creating healing modalities and pathways for all of us. Because we all, that's the beauty is that, like you said, it's the thread that unites us. But now with the electromagnetic, the ELF frequency, we're all subject through television and radio tower to mind control. Without the trauma base, they've switched. They've moved on from the trauma-based mind control to now this electromagnetic frequency because it's so much easier to do a broad sweep of society, right? The manpower to personally traumatize a child from ages 0 to 6, and then the fracturing going into creating dissociative personality is so much man time. So they've switched it from trauma-based to the electromagnetic. And I really think that if we had a way to just stop all the BS things that society says is important and just start going back to all of the judgments that we made, like on the First Nations, the Native Americans, that's been a huge judgment call. Oh, look at those lazy drunks. Well, really? Do you know that those lazy drunks were sodomized, raped, and tortured by, the deities in the Catholic Church? They were beaten. They were, tied up, tortured. They were made to think that they were orphans when their parents were, 10 kilometers away. Really? They're just lazy drunks? Do you understand what they're dealing with? No. Okay, what about the military and all these people that are making, weird snaps and their suicide rates in the military now and the shooting sprees and all these things? Is it just crazy? Like, oh, society is so scary and crazy? No. The primary foundation to entering the military is boot camp, which has mind control, trauma-based, on a lesser level, but, and then we send them over to kill. Well, what do you think that's doing? It's what they use in trauma-based mind control, and as a young age, they get kids to kill other kids.
Yeah, it's absolutely true what Eva says. It's really, and I can totally relate to it. I can totally relate to it on various levels. First of all, I'm also a single mother, and Chris knows the story. Over this once I was victimized with this technology, and I had really hard time to find out what was going on, and especially the doctors were absolutely not helpful. They were basically telling me that I'm delusional and couldn't help me. So over this, my ex-partner.
Melanie, were you gang stalked? Is that
I was not gang stalked. I know that many victims report that. Personally, I have not been gang stalked. I had a few incidents where, when I came down, I saw that the windscreen wipers on my car were torn, or my mirrors were flapped, or things like that. Which at the time I didn't realize. afterwards understood, okay, it had something to do with that. But I wasn't really gang stalked, like many victims reported, really stalking by groups of people. That was not my case. But I believe that, and to come back to the single parent thing, is that at one point I was quite disillusioned with my partner. He had not really kept all the promises he made me, basically just to get me back. So I registered, a friend of mine told me that, because I wanted kids, I always wanted children, so told me that at the university clinic here, there was this program. I mean, none of this what I'm going to say now I can prove, but I have a strong suspicion that this is when it happened. There was a program where you could register when you were a single woman, and basically get inseminated. So the procedure was that you would call at certain times to confirm your interest, and after a period of 1 year or 2 years, I believe, you were inseminated. So more out of a feeling of disillusionment, disappointment, I don't know what, I registered there, as did my friend, and I think I wouldn't have gone through with it anyway, but it was more, I don't know, a bit of something I did out of in a moment of wrath, or but I believed that at that point, and shortly after this, I had to undergo surgery, which I was told was a routine surgery at the time, but it was with a general anesthetic. And after that, very shortly after that, the first signs of Magellan's appeared, which means I had very strange fibers, seeds, granules, hexagons coming out of my skin. And very shortly after that, I got pregnant from my partner at the time. So I cancelled I called the State University Clinic and I said, I'm not interested anymore in your program. But I believe what actually happened is me registering there as a single mom or a single woman, I put myself on the map, so to speak, for them to be an ideal subject for experimentation, because it was very easy then to check my data, to see that I was indeed single, at least on the paper I looked single, and that I'm not from here, so I don't have any family in Brussels, I'm not from here, so I believe, I cannot prove it, but I believe that at that point they thought that I was really an ideal subject, so to speak, to perform research on. And in time, and then I underwent the surgery. In time, when I look back, it all matches, So it kind of makes sense. But what I wanted to say with you regarding what you said, Eva, that you were a single mom too, and you found it very difficult to deal with all these subjects and be a good mom to your sons and shield them from this horror, this personal horror that you have experienced. For me, this was the same, and over all this horror, when this started and I didn't know what was going on, my ex-partner then started a custody battle, telling everybody I'd become delusional and that he actually won. So my son was taken away from me, which is absolutely outrageous. And when I was pregnant, my ex-partner told me that he didn't even want the child. He asked me to abort him, which I've never done. And now my son is with his father. They didn't want him in the first place. It is totally outrageous. So this has been really, really difficult for me also on a personal level. I'm pretty optimistic that now I have to prove that I'm actually the victim of a horrible crime. So I've appealed this court decision, and I hope that the court will take the scanning report, which is saying that I emit a radio frequency, that they will take this as proof, and that they will reconsider this totally outrageous decision to give custody to my ex-partner, who is really, he did want my son in the first place, and it's outrageous what happened.
Interesting. When I hear your story, it almost sounds like even with your son, and I mean this, bear with me because I'm probably starting to get jaded and a little bit paranoid, but it sounds like you may have been set up.
Yes, I believe that is true. I had the same thoughts went through my mind. I do not believe that you're paranoid at all, saying that. I think with Chris, we said the other day that there's something like a healthy paranoia, considering the world we're living in. But
yeah, you broke up a bit, but I was saying that there's such thing as healthy paranoia, because if there's things around you all the time that just don't add up, then you're going to be paranoid about it, and you're going to want to know what's going on and find where it all links up. And obviously, the structure that we're living in, it isn't ours. You can work that out pretty quickly, and they're not working for us. And if we can ask the question, how did we get into this? So we're not just saying, oh, it's those drunks, we need to put them in jail, or, vaccinate them so that they stop drinking beer. I don't know what they're talking about now, or, give them more gallons. We need to get over this social perfectionism where, everything can be made right. The government can run everything, and people just need to act right and stop asking silly questions. It's these what I call these social perfectionists. They are the delusional ones, and having a healthy level of paranoia, I don't think is delusional. I think that's working out. I mean, you've got things coming out your body. I think that's healthy to question.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think it's the most normal thing to question that. And Chris knows that I actually, these things that came out of my body, I went to the local university clinic here to see a environmental toxicologist and chairman of public health, and I asked him if he could analyze this material that came out of my skin, if he could do a biopsy and then analyze this material under the microscope. And what came back is that, first of all, it took me 7 or 8 months to get actually the actual lab reports with this, which is also very unusual. Normally it shouldn't take more than 2 weeks. But when after my insistence, when I finally got them, what came back is that the material could not be identified under the microscope. They had never seen anything like that. Well, to then still claim, and that was what happened in this court case, that I was delusional and paranoid, when there is actual material that you can analyze under the microscope, even though it couldn't be identified. So
right. I have two thoughts.
It's unbelievable to then claim that I'm delusional. It's just.
I have two thoughts. I'll start with the interpersonal on a personal level. I really feel strongly. You're in the UK, is that correct?
I'm in Belgium, in Brussels.
I'm in the UK, but yeah.
Okay, sorry. What I would suggest, Melanie, there's a lady by the name of Solaris Blue Raven, and she's in the United States. And I believe she's moving to Colorado from LA. But she actually was, get this, you're going to love this. She was harassed with this technology by a person in a public rock band, and she names this person. I'll direct anyone, to her website, Solaris Blue Raven, and she's actually got books and DVDs. But one of the most amazing things this woman has been able to do is she documented as much as she could with health practitioners, scanning her body, all these unrelated, unknown, unnamed issues. She had them documented by health practitioners, and then she sued her handler, the person who was directing this stuff at her. And she actually had taken it into the courts, and she's gotten it on record. Whether or not she won or not, and the specifics around her case, I don't actually think she won, but she actually got it documented. And so what this says in a court of law now is that this is on record. Mm-hmm. That her complaint is on record, and now it's referenceable. And so maybe that might help you if you get in contact with Solaris and get the court documents of her testimony and leverage the fact that she's documenting this weird stuff's going on in the United States, and you're not alone, and you're not crazy.
No, I know I'm not alone, and it's good that you mentioned this court case, and I would certainly be interested in getting her coordinate. But there have been documented cases and even court cases. For example, there's also the James Walbert case, who actually won his court case. He could prove that he was victimized by this technology, that he has had a RFID implant indeed. He's currently looking for a doctor to take it out, and he could also prove that his former associate was actually bombarding him with microwave weapons, with directed energy weapons. So the person has been arrested. He got a restraining order against him, and he's looking at some time now, I believe. So he really won this court case. There are various cases like this. There's also the Boyd case and the David Larson's case, who did a brilliant investigation about these implants and the people that were him being victimized by technology as well. So there are a few documented court cases as well, and there are a few cases where they have actually been winning. Maybe your friend, she didn't win, but James Walbert, I know that he won his court case. And what was actually interesting is, because we're talking about Magellan, at the time they asked various experts to give their testimony at this court case, and one of them was Dr. Hildegard Stenninger, who's the leading expert in nanotechnology, the technology I'm victimized with in Magellan, and she supported James Walbert during the trial, during the court case. She supported him, giving her expert opinion.
What's her name again?
Dr. Hildegard Stenninger. She's an industrial toxicologist in California, and she's done extensive research on nanotechnology and Magellan. So she's really the person, the reference person for this kind of technology.
After the show, let's exchange. I'll give you Solaris's, and could you type out the spelling of that doctor?
Absolutely. There's also another doctor, Dr. John Hall, and why I mention him, he also testified at this James Walbert case, and why I mention him is that he is the one, before you came, Eva, I talked about the radio frequency scannings that were organized to see if the person is emitting a radio frequency, to see if the person has been victimized by this technology. And he, Dr. John Hall, who is a neurologist working in Texas, a medical doctor, he started this radio frequency scanning campaign. So I will give you his details as well as Dr. Stenninger.
Well, and here's what I was going to say. The second point was in the big picture, in the macro. One of the people I really admire is Naomi Wolf. And the reason why I admire her is because she was able to take, instead of addressing 9/11 head on and saying 9/11 is this and here's why it is this, she took a step back and said, no, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to empower people with a primer so that they understand that there's a blueprint of what they do, and this is what they do, and this is the blueprint. And then what people can do is decide for themselves where this primer is being applied in society, because they don't just do it, here, and here. They do it all over the place. And so she studied all the would-be despots, dictators, and itemized the 10 steps of destabilizing a society. Step 1, create an internal or external threat, perceived, internal, external threat. Step 2, create a paramilitary force outside the rule of law. Step 3, media blackout. Step 4, create a place of torture that takes place outside the rule of law. Step 5, and so she's itemized all these things that, like Pinochet, Stalin, Hitler, Mussolini, Khmer Rouge, all these different dictators have done, and she itemized them so that it empowers, people who are busy in their hamster wheel lives, who don't take time to look at government and govern government, because we've been, nurtured into thinking, the gardener does the lawn, the nanny does the kids, and the politicians do government. And I just go to my hamster wheel and come home and have a beer.
And then it's simple, isn't it? Then we can decode society and the world that we live in, and ask how did we get into this, and where are we at?
Yeah, and that's Melanie, if you could take that approach and create the primer of what this looks like that you've experienced, and publish that in a book or as a nonprofit network or something like that, because that's what society can look to as the example to identify if it's happening, in a church group or in a hockey team, or because you heard about that too, right? And the gentleman who came forward years later and wrote a book, Fire on Ice, about his being molested by a hockey coach, and who this hockey coach molested, numbers of kids. In the United States, there was a football coach that was just recently convicted. So, if you knew that primer for, more specifically the nano and what the symptomology is after. So in Naomi's, said, this is the primer and the symptoms are, closing of the society. And then here's what you can do to reopen the society. So if you said, here's the primer of what they do, and then here's what the symptoms are, and then here's what you can do to reverse them.
Yes, absolutely. It's a very good idea, Eva, and believe it or not, yes, I have already thought about writing a book. I mean, this whole thing has been such a nightmare, but I believe it is very important that, this goes out, and that the public is informed about this. So, obviously, living with Morgans means living in a lot of pain, and also unfortunately, your physical and mental capabilities decrease. But I still think it is important that I write this book, and I will look seriously into that now. Before you came online, I was telling Chris about the frequency tests that we're planning in October. So I'm just waiting for them now to happen, because we're doing them in a Faraday cage to actually prove that the emissions are really coming from the body of the victims and cannot be told that we put the frequency in the air or something. But once they will have happened, and I hope that we'll get positive results, I'll definitely look into writing a book. Yes.
And we are the holographic solution. If we can change it, as you said before, if we can change this within ourselves and speak about it, and then spread it on radio and with each other, and really become strong with this, then we shift it for the whole as well. Yes,
it's true, because I liked what you said, Chris, last time. I think it was on our show, Psychological and Biological Warfare Experiments. At the end, you said, and it's not to, because it's me, but you said then some of us step up and save it for the rest of us. And I believe that's very, very true. Ultimately, when you look back in history, the change that has been brought about, it was always about some individuals, as you said, not taking it anymore and stepping up.
Well, it's like I had a conversation with yourself and Carmen, and I was mentioning the word maverick, and that's what we need. We need mavericks and not just heroes, because you can be a hero and do something great, but then you can get all the plaudits and then not do anything more. But a maverick can keep on working at something for years and years and years, and maybe not care whether they get the plaudits for it. But in the long term, they can feel happy in themselves that they have done the right thing all the time, and they have been in, well, I guess to use my show title, they've been in their own dream vortex. They've created their own reality, and they've created the reality for others because they've held that frequency, to use a better word. And spread that through their deeds and through their just being. If you want to if you believe that that everything's connected and that, yeah, go ahead, Eva.
Well, I was just going to say that to the cabal, number one, they don't understand that kind of intrinsic contribution motivation because they're so oh, you know what I'm trying to say, motivated by money, right? And for us, we do it because it's an intrinsic motivation. It's contribution oriented, and therefore it's unlimited potentially because it's out of love, right? And it takes love for my son to make me get up and do that, and now it's taking the love for Bill, to take on more, and for you, Melanie, the love of your son, and
Adrian, yeah.
And so, the other thing is, this ties into what Bill is saying, because once we get out of the sexual and trauma, we have to look at the fact that it's also the legal system, that the legal system is such a fear motivator, that, in Bill's words, it's, we suffer from a grand world is flat mentality, and that reaches into all aspects of life. And, the legal system is based on man-made law, or it's not at all universal laws or the true laws. That I think eventually that's the next step, is we have to start shaking off all of these faux fears that they intimidate us with, and start stepping up as responsible soul humans, man, not the fictitious person on paper, capital letter, and that's the next step. Once we, and that goes back to the original comment, that it takes something so uncomfortable, so disgusting, and the love of someone so much that we are willing to get out of our comfort zones and do something. And
yeah, that's very important, getting out of the comfort zone, because it is true that the worst fear most individuals have is stepping into something that they don't know, the fear of the unknown. But I believe that once we take that step, then there's really no turning back. Let's say that is the important step, the overcome of the fear, to get out there, get to know something new, do something that you're not used to be doing, and taking the step that, to speak out.
It's having that clarity within yourself. You know what needs to be done. You have that, oh God, moment, or something.
Knowing.
Yeah, and then you can be that maverick, because you know what the truth is, and you remember who you really are, and you're not just living in the flat world. The flat world law isn't real. You realize that, and when you embrace who you are, you embrace your multidimensional self, your imagination. You realize that your imagination is real. It's not something that you sometimes, you sit in front of a movie and, oh, that was nice, but it was just entertainment. But actually, this is our imagination, our creativity is what we really are. We're not just a cog. We're not just a thing to be made, quote unquote, happy. That happiness is all flat world. It's all this flat world law, and we are that greater being. When we remember who we are, we know that there is more, and we know that more is us, and then we can use that power.
Yes, absolutely. And to connect to this is what you just mentioned, Carmen Lupin, another strong woman, another woman that is not afraid to step up. And maybe I would like just to give her website, because it contains much of the things we've just discussed. It's http://targeted-individuals victims-europe.com. And I believe it is important for people, or it could be interesting to have a look there, because it describes what many of the victims, such as I and others, have been going through. And so to get a victim's point of view, but not only victims, I think she has a good website, and she describes also solutions to these problems. So I just wanted to give that to you and our listeners.
And this is a thought that I've just had on my mind, is we have a responsibility to have the right mentality, so that because I think that just being activists is still working within this flat world mentality. We have to really be doing it from a state of knowing, and really want to create a more, I guess, multi-dimensional solution to this, where it's about feeling, it's about compassion, it's about support. It's not just about getting information out there and striving forward, because I think sometimes we could create problems as well by doing that, and maybe not be inclusive, because then we're not relating to each other as who we are. We're relating to each other on this kind of defensive crusade, which is important, I think, to some degree. But what I'm trying to do is bring connections, is hopefully open hearts and open minds together, so that we can be mavericks in that clarity, and really show care for ourselves and each other, and how to put it?
Yeah, but I believe you do exactly the right thing. And yeah, okay, you talked about activists, and it may start small, but I believe that through shows like this, we will actually create this public awareness raising movement, and at one point then there will be a snowball effect. And we have, I think, started very well with these shows that we're regularly doing, these discussions that we're having. I really appreciate the discussion we're having today, also with Eva. I didn't know her, I didn't know her story, I didn't know what she was doing, and I feel very much impacted by what she said. And I believe the snowball effect will be coming, and the snowball is starting to roll, and this fellowship has started to evolve, to develop, and we have started this process of waking people up and teaching people that we should look out for each other here, and protect humanity from these kind of threats and human rights violations. So I'm very happy that I was here tonight.
Well, just before you say something, Eva, what I'm trying to get at is the movement. If the movement is self-aware, it's good to put out information. But if we can help each other and help quote unquote victims, and have if we can really create some solutions, as well as put out the information, and link people up, like what we're doing now, and what I'm not saying that isn't happening, because it is happening, and I'm not.
I really want to say
Go ahead,
this.
Eva.
This is what I love about your show, is that you have, because of your geographical location, and then now your ties, the fact that you've reached out in the way that you have through Revolution Radio, it's linking you to North America, which means also anything in Europe or UK, you're, just because of geographical news, you're more energetically tap into what's going on over there. And so this is what I love about your show is that you bridge globally. You do a really great job at bringing people from all over the world together. And I really wanted to commend you and thank you for that, because I wouldn't have known about Melanie until today. So thank you.
Yeah, me too. I would like to say once more that I'm really grateful that I'm here tonight. I would like to also, as Eva says, commend you for what you do, and these shows are such an enrichment, I believe, and I met so many very important people I feel so connected to. I mean, I've just met Eva, and immediately I can totally relate to her. I feel very much impacted by what she has to say, and I believe that you do really, really a great job, Chris. I'm very full of admiration, because you're not very, very old, but you've really understood it all, and I would really like to thank you again for doing these shows.
Well, thank you both, and I don't want to say look up to, well, I do look up to you, but you guys, but I don't look up to anybody anymore. I see you as fellow people who are on the same road, and we're connecting up, and I'm glad that we've done this, and we have connected up, and hopefully this spreads holographically, as we've been saying, and yeah, we're a cog, but we're a cog in something else.
Well, and that's so exciting, because if I'm not aware of, to be honest, other than James Casbolt, Michael Prince, whichever name he goes by now, that's probably, and Sarah Stanga, those two people are probably the limit of my knowledge currently of what's happening in Europe, UK area. So what I think this show is bringing me is, I guess, a subtle nudge, and it's exciting, because I think, again, going back to society and the way we're conditioned to think regionally rather than globally, if we can start uniting all of the people in the United States, or North America, Canada, United States, with all the people in Europe, UK, and start to compile legal documentation and support network systems, that makes, the feeling of being one single mom named Melanie, out there against the world trying to do her best, it gives her a whole network behind her that's going to feed her, the legal documents, the networking, marketing for getting, because that's one thing I found too, is I participated in Lorien Fenton's Super Soldier Summit in March, and what I learned there is the people that have a regular conduit for their voice, whether it's online radio, YouTubing, blogging, they're safer. And so, if we can market each other, not just out there trying to market ourselves, but market each other, like how I did with Solaris, now I can do the same with your show, Chris, and with Melanie, your situation, then, we're unstoppable, and change will happen faster.
And this is a family station, as in Eva is also on Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. She has a show, Eva Lucian. And I heard your last one, Eva, and I thought it was very good quality. Yeah, so, and Melanie, you do have quite a good network, don't you, of people, because you're part of ISAACT.
But it's true, I have a very good network, or quite a good network, but yeah, your shows definitely contributed even expanding that network, and I agree with Eva when she says that together we are unstoppable. And I would like to quote something that one of our friends, and who's also got a radio station, Roxy Lopez, has on her website, and I believe it's very true. Humanity is 7 billion strong. We are the majority. So, and shows like this will really contribute in building this fellowship. What we need, saying what we have to say that we just won't take it anymore, and I believe bring this breakthrough that is needed to address these issues and to stop these atrocities.
It was Karen Quintestado of United We Win, or United.
United We Win, yes.
Yeah, she gave me your contact, Melanie.
It's true.
So, and what she's doing is a good cog in this as well, and she's going from the non-confrontational, what would you call it?
Non-violence.
That's the one. Yeah, I had brain freeze. Non-violence angle. Where if we care for each other and come together and bring forward this information, then we can really make a change, and we can make small waves that. Oh, it's already at the end of the show. Okay, well, thank you, Melanie and Eva. It was really great. You're listening.
Thank you, Chris, again.
Listening to Vortex Radio on Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com.
Woo! Vortex! Team Vortex!
Bye.